physician entrepreneurs who are CEOs, who open companies and they're part of big companies. And it's important to know from them, because there are so many entrepreneurs and people who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs in AAPI community. And this will be an educational session for all of them. And we thank the panelists for being here with a short notice, and I would like to thank Hetal Gore for putting this together. Thank you, Hetal.
Thank you, President, for the trust in me. Thank you for whoever is here, because this very busy CEOs have taken time out of their busy lives to be here. So I really would like to welcome Dr. Raj Pandya. And actually, Sandeep, you are also a doctor, PhD doctorate, but Sandeep Dronawat to come, and we're going to be standing here. I feel like when you stand, there's more awareness, and we can come in and out and keep making sure that people are paying attention. So, Sandeep and Raj, can I have the next slide, please? Can I request you to take this out, please? Thank you. Thank you, brother, for helping out. One CEO doing the job. Thank you. All right. So can we go to the first slide? So CEO Forum is something, as Satish mentioned, we do quite a lot during convention. And what is the reason we are doing CEO convention? And a lot of people, when I was calling them, they were asking me, what is CEO Forum? So CEO Forum is that we invite people who have done a lot of different entrepreneurship work. They are part of some big organizations that they run. And we learn from their experiences, because over a period of time, my own personal experience, as well as talking with different physicians, we realize that we are excellent physicians. We are very good at what we do, but we don't know how to run business. We really don't know how to work as a team. We don't know how to lead people and have that positive environment when we get the productivity out from your team and stuff. And that's why you learn from different industries, how they have been successful. Every time I go to different organizations, I listen to the CEOs or the leaders, and I've learned so much from people from hospitality group, people from different industries, entertainment industries, because what makes them successful, how they have been able to get people to be engaged and promote themselves. So that's the reason of having a CEO forum, because if we just keep learning medical education, sometimes we are not as successful as, unfortunately, business of medicine has taken over the art of medicine, and we need to learn that. So that's why we are here. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my esteemed panelists. Unfortunately, one of the panelists who was coming from New Jersey missed her flight, and there's only one flight, it seems, from New Jersey to Cincinnati, which I can't believe, but yes, that's happened, and she couldn't be here, and she really sends her regrets. And because of the short time, her video also is not uploaded, so we're just going to be with these two gentlemen who are here. So next slide, please. So we have Dr. Sandeep Dronawat, who is a dynamic leader whose career bridges technology, entrepreneurship, and public service. As CEO of Fetal Life and co-founder of Covington, he has driven innovation in digital health and healthcare IT solutions. His leadership extends to energy investments as chairman of West Wind Power and managing partner of Triple Crown Holdings. With a strong foundation in chemical engineering and technology, Dr. Dronawat has held executive roles including Chief Technology Officer of Western Southern Financial Group and Director of Technology at Day Systems. He's already and also contributed to academia as an adjunct faculty member at both the University of Louisville and Indiana University Southeast. He's deeply committed to civic engagement. He has served on numerous boards, including the Louisville Water Company, University of Louisville Business School, Jefferson Community and Technical College, and various cultural and professional organizations. His contributions have earned him multiple accolades, including the University of Louisville 2018 Alumni Fellow of the Year and the 2004 Top 40 Under 40 by Business First and 2008 Mosaic Award for Outstanding Immigrant and Community Service. And just reading that, it feels like he must be at least 70, 80 years old, but here he is. He's younger than me, and I'm so proud of you, Sandeep. Welcome to CEO Forum. Next slide, please. Our next amazing panelist is Dr. Raj Pandya. He's a physician by training, as you'll see, and he exemplifies the rare intersection of clinical excellence and entrepreneurial vision. A renowned orthopedic surgeon, he's the founder and CEO of Atlanta Orthopedic Institute, Atlanta Orthopedic Institute of Surgery Center, where he's advanced cutting-edge musculoskeletal care. And he already, I think, is opening MRI center also in AOI, correct? Dr. Pandya, you are going to make it into physical therapy under one roof and all the imaging technology as well. Beyond medicine, Dr. Pandya is a serial entrepreneur with a diverse portfolio. He is the founder and CEO of the Unicorn Health, a healthcare solutions company, and the founder and chairman of Pan Orthopedics, which focuses on medical innovation. His entrepreneurial spirit also extends into the hospitality industry, where he serves as chairman of Twisted Taco, a popular restaurant chain. Dr. Pandya's leadership across healthcare and business reflects a deep commitment to innovation, community service, and transformative growth. His work continues to impact both the patients and industry at large. And what's missing here, which I found out after doing some internet digging, that he's also a film producer. He has supported a lot of amazing movies. One of them is Blind Side, and I forget the other two. So thank you for what you do, Dr. Pandya, and thank you for your time and flying from Atlanta to come here. All right, so yes, big round of applause. Thank you. So Dr. Pandya, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think when somebody says a CEO? How would you define CEO in your kind of definition? And what are the different characteristics one has to have or maybe should have to make a good CEO?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And I'll tell you, it's interesting. Here we are at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you have some Is that better? Yeah, okay, sorry. A little bit better there? So I was just saying, first of all, thank you for everyone to be here. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon after, obviously, a long conference. So I would say, actually, first of all, kudos to everyone here, because this probably is the creme de la creme group of CEOs sitting out there. I mean, the best part of this meeting actually isn't to hear, the two of us talk. It's really to be able to network. And these are the actual folks out there we hope to network with. So that's the reason for doing it. We can sit here and talk about our accomplishments, but that doesn't really mean a whole lot. I think what's really good is for us to be able to share experiences, and honestly, in a forum like this, for us to grow new ventures, and I think that'll be really profound. With respect to what is a CEO, everyone's a CEO, right? I mean, you could be a CEO of companies. I'm a CEO every single time I walk into the operating room, right? I'm a CEO of that case. And that, to me, I think, as a surgeon, it really grounds you into, what it means to be a CEO. You're ultimately a CEO of yourself. If you watch the social media of what recently took place, that everyone's seen, the guy probably didn't conduct himself very much as a CEO of himself, and you can run companies. So I'd say, first and foremost, understand, what it is that you're trying to do. There are CEOs that run companies. I'm actually a little different. I'm an entrepreneur. I'll start companies. And I really think about myself as a CEO as someone who really scales solutions. So what I do is I identify the solution and then I scale it. And that's really what's been very successful for me. So I think about that all the time. And everything I do isn't really about the business side of it. It's about the solution. It's what has profound meaning to me, and then I expand from there. So that's essentially what I mean by CEO. I'd say one thing probably more important than anything else is, it's about really diving in and taking ownership of something and being ultimately responsible for it. So when I'm holding a knife, that's what I'm doing. At the same time, I think being a CEO involves that level of responsibility.
The characteristics, what makes a good CEO, in your view?
So the character is very interesting as to what makes a good CEO. And I really think that if you really bring it down, there are certain, I think, common characteristics that you have to have. And I always tell my students and, folks rotating with me, even if they're visiting surgeons, is, the most important thing you have to have, and I have a very surgical type of approach to this, is you have to have clarity of what it is you're trying to do. It's amazing how many people go far down the road into a venture, and it doesn't really bring them happiness, and they do it, maybe they make some money on it, but they've lost time on it. So I think clarity is the most important term. Have a great clarity of vision. Being able to really identify what are your motivations, why are you doing what you're doing, and spend a lot of time on that. Understand the problem that you're trying to solve. If you understand the problem enough, the solution presents itself. Every single thing I've ever done is by understanding the problem at a granular level. So clarity, I think, is the most important characteristic that you have to have. As a surgeon, we have to apply. You have to do. It's not enough just to have these ideas twirling around in your head. You have to be able to engage and do something. So the second thing is you have to be a doer. You have to be able to apply. You have to analyze very quickly and complex situations and turn them into something that's applicable. The third thing I would say is you also have to have a lot of humility. I think the most important characteristic of a surgeon and a physician is you have to be humble. If you sit there with a level of arrogance, you kill people. You have to have this humility of constantly trying to do the best you can and learning. So I would say you have to have the ability to refine, continually refine your process, and finally, then you can scale it. And you have to be totally relentless about this. There is just no give up in this thing, right? You have to be totally responsible. You have to take ownership. There's a great verse in the Bhagavad Gita that, that says, Udaret atmanatmanam na atmanam avasadayet, which basically says, elevate yourself by yourself. I think the one thing you have to understand is no one's coming. If you have that mentality that no one is coming to help you, that you have to do it yourself, and you apply that to everything, now you have the basic start of being a CEO. It's basic start of being a real entrepreneur. It's about ownership. And then you have to be resilient. You have to constantly be able to, I think about it in the OR, you get a complication. It's not about, running out of there, burying your head under the table. You have to deal with things. You have to be resilient. You have to be able to adapt. And probably most importantly, you have to be real. You have to really understand, what it is that you're trying to tackle. I tell my students all the time, spend a lot of time on clarity and vision and examining your motivations, but I also tell them, can you do it? Do you have the skill set to do it? And you have to be honest about that. Can you affect it? There are a lot of great medical students that come through that may not have the hands to necessarily be a surgeon, right? But nevertheless, you can also understand that and then work towards trying to get better. So I think those are some of the high-level ideas of kind of what you need to do if you're going to dive into something like this.
Thank you. I'll take that.
This is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Sandeep, if I can call you Dr. Dronavat or Sandeep.
No, just call me Sunny. That's fine.
So, Sandeep or Sunny, I have a question for you. Your background is in engineering and IT. Is that right?
Correct.
And what made you go into different fields that you are? Like, I don't think there is any field that you haven't touched it, from hospitality to being very active in politics to healthcare. And I understand you went to India. Our Prime Minister invited you and talk about IT and healthcare. So what made you diversify yourself so much? And how do you manage that? Like, you sit on so many different boards, and how do you manage your life and your personal life, and how do you find that work-life balance? Because a lot of physicians, we want to do a lot of things, but then, our time is limited. So how do you figure, and how do you kind of, do what you do for the community along with all your work?
Sure. I think there are multiple questions, so I'm going to answer them in order, one at a time. I think, why do I do it? I think we have one life to live. I don't know if there is a second life until somebody proves it to me. So that's my passion of doing new things. And being a chemical engineer, everybody thinks it's all about chemistry. It's all about solving problems. So you bring a chemical engineer any problem, we solve it. So I think that's where my training is to solve problems. So whether you bring me a medical problem or you bring me a environmental problem, my passion is to solve it. So that's where I get that drive to do so many things. I think the second question you asked me is like, how do I manage my time? I have a very well organized calendar, and I think one of the things Dr. Pandya was saying was having that indomitable spirit that you take ownership, you take responsibility, and you organize yourself. We can find time, and we can also prioritize things. One of the things I have prioritized in my life is not watch television, not be on social media. And that gives me a lot of time. I put down my phone. And if you organize yourself, and then as a CEO, a best thing would be to get an assistant who can organize things for you. So delegation. And
Micromanage, you can.
Yeah, don't try to be everything to everybody. So I have an assistant. She manages my calendar, my time, my appointments, so I'm not chasing anything. So that helps me organize my time, and that helps. And having a good calendar with technology can help you immensely. The third question is civic organizations and all these organizations. They need people. They need smart people. They need different mentalities. When I got hired to be the board of water company, which is the #1 water company in the world in terms of quality and taste, and we have won Malcolm Baldrige Award. I looked at it as a business. I didn't look at it as a civic thing. It's one of its kind organization. It's a private company owned by the city. So it's classified as a private company, and we pay a dividend to the city because that's the shareholders. So when I joined, I looked at it as a company and said, we're paying, 10 years ago, $13 million in dividend to the city at a lower cost. Last year we paid $32 million. So we ran that as a business, and so when I got hired, there was nobody. There were only lawyers who were in the board, and he's usually a retired policeman or a retired fireman, and they had no business knowledge of how you want to grow the dividends. And so I challenged the executive committee every year saying, next year is going to be 38, and after that 40 million. Our goal is $50 million dividend from the water company to the city. So we're building an organization for next 10 years where we can do that. So that's
So you set goals, and then the board has to
Yes.
keep up. And I think you brought up a good point. To have a diverse board makes so much difference because you're getting people from different industries that I just mentioned earlier. And I think that's what you kind of implying to. But also I feel that civic work that we do, the community work that we do, gives you so much gratitude. And that gratitude kind of makes you do more, and then you're a better person. I think gratitude, like as everybody now with mindfulness and healthy lifestyle is understanding, having that gratitude kind of gets you such a positive impact and positive vibration. So it just shows in your work. So going back to you, Dr. Pandya, you have done amazing in your field, and you've been very successful in your field, and you pioneered a lot of stuff, and you're expanding beyond what usual physician does. What made you interested in going into the food industries and hospitality, and what you told me about that farm to table kind of restaurant that you're opening, was it to make it a healthier lifestyle? What drove you into that?
I mean, I think a real entrepreneur, if you're really doing that, you don't really live a contrived life. You're not sitting there thinking, oh, what do I do next? I mean, I think you open yourself up to life and things happen. I think the more you try to get too, buried up in the detail of things, I think you're missing the big picture. For me, it came very naturally. I do a lot of biologics, probably more than just about anybody anywhere, including certainly in the country. We do a lot of surgical implantation of mesenchymal stem cells, et cetera. And a big part of being a biologic surgeon is the importance of integrating lifestyle. So I'm looking for results. I'm not saying, oh, this is a great thing to do and I'm going to make a lot of money doing it. I'm here taking care of my patients. And, basically I think in these situations, it's a hub and spoke. You have to live spherically. If you really want to do an exciting life and do these type of things, don't live in a linear fashion, because that's the way your life's going to end up. And if you live spherically, you live simultaneously, you expand. You have to be able to multitask if you're going to do that. But really, when you talk about restaurants and things like that, I don't care about restaurants so much. I really wanted to focus. I go back right now and I study biochemistry. Here at my stage of being a surgeon and being a technician as I am, I go back and learn the basic science. It's continuing to evolve, because what I really want to understand is what are the real aspects that impact health the most, and it's lifestyle. You have to learn about exercise. You have to learn about mitochondrial health, right? This is really exciting what's taking place. And so it kind of, my real big restaurant is now called Azara, which is a earth to table concept, because the earth, you have to also think about sustainability. It's about sustaining you, but sustaining the earth at the same time. And I think that we have an umbilical cord to the earth, and we've neglected that. How many times are you aware when you're eating? You're sitting here having a dinner tonight, and you're going to have it. How many times do you actually think about where that food came from, right? My grandmother used to go and pick the vegetables for that evening's meal. Profound, right? And so when you think about it, that's really something we don't do so much. This is, I think it's scriptural, but when you do that and you become aware, all of a sudden, you're transforming cells in your own body. You're transforming a mindset. And honestly, I said before, it's about applying the macrocosm and the microcosm. If it's not good for me, it's not good for the world. So I focus on, hey, does it make sense for me? Do I want to do it? Understand what that is, understand the solution, and then expand it. And then what happens is, when you expand it, it brings full circle, it comes back to you as well. And so literally, the inside and the outside of the world become one. There's really no difference. So I'm not, I think the goal in life is to do something very profound. Don't get too caught up in a business or an entrepreneurial thing or this, that, and the other. Live profoundly, and that's really becoming CEO of yourself and becoming CEO of everything around you. Just be responsible about it. So the restaurants are a natural extension of what I do in the operating room.
That's a great answer. I think when you throw it out, your intention in the universe, things do find you, the ideas come to you, people come to you, because you have that vibration that you've set around. Sunny, to ask you a question, I struggle with this, and I'm not sure if anybody else here struggles, is conflict resolution. And if anybody who is here, AAPI, we have a lot of conflicts among physicians, among leadership, because we are all type A personalities. We are very driven by what we believe in, and we physicians are very emotional we are passionate about a lot of things, and that kind of sometimes comes out as a different opinion, arguments. And as somebody who sits on different companies and CEOs and the boards, I'm pretty sure there can be situations where like two parties or two sides are not coming and you need to pass some resolutions. How do you do this conflict resolution? How do you what's your style, and what has worked that we can learn from it?
Well, you can sign executive orders, but that doesn't work. In those aspects, what I have learned is you don't make it between you and me if you're not in the thinking same as me. Second is listen to what the other person is saying and understand it. And then the third one is don't make it between you and me or us and them. Make it us and against the problem. So you focus on the problem and you focus on the solution and attack that instead of attacking each other. So I think if you do that, you can resolve most of the conflicts, is focusing on the problem and the process instead of people. If you make it about people, then you're going to have no resolution. And I always say this, I buy hotels. We buy about 3 or 4 every year. And I say, what is a good deal? People ask me, and I say, a good deal is where both the parties are a little unhappy. There is no such thing as a good deal where both the parties are happy, because if I paid more, I'm unhappy. If you got less, you're unhappy. So if we are a little bit both unhappy, it works out.
That's a great answer. I think not to take personally, as you said, put the differences, discuss on the topic without going into personalities and without getting into a personal attack, and let's keep the problem as it is. And as you said rightly, let's attack the problem. Let's not attack the person or personality. I think that's really well said. Dr. Pandya, you're still very young, but what would you tell your younger self? What you think you would have done different, or what you'll tell your younger self that you regret now, that, oh my God, if I had learned this when I was in my 20s, maybe I would have avoided some sticky situations or some bad deals, or, all experiences are great. We are the product of our experiences. But is there something that advice you'll give to yourself or younger generation here who are physicians but they want to get into different businesses? What would you advise them?
Well, I'm not going to advise you on businesses. I'll not advise you, but I'll just tell you at least the way I think about things from the standpoint of, how you should be. And I think this is kind of universal. Just to harp a little bit on the conflict resolution side, I think you take the words right and wrong off the table. The minute you start introducing those, I'm right and you're wrong, it screws everything up. In the operating room, I don't think that way, right? It's objective. And so objectifying becomes really good. And if somebody has a different opinion, look at that as an opportunity to learn. I think I don't know if I'd give any different advice other than, as Bear Bryant, the legendary coach of Alabama, said, leave it all on the field. Leave nothing left. I mean, if you do, what else is there to say? I think the important thing is, live completely fully. I'm a different person now giving that advice than the person that would have been taking it, right? And so the more important thing is don't look backwards at these regrets, this, that, and the other thing. I think the only thing to take away from it is continue to move forward very hard and leave it all on the field. And if you do that, as we, said, you live this one life, I mean, this is it, right? And so, leave it all on the field is what I would say, and I would always done that, so I think that's an important part of it. I think, don't be afraid. I think the biggest thing that people do is, you got all these doubts and stuff like that. I think what you do is you try to understand those and rectify it, and once you start really doing so, all these tigers that are running around the woods, they're not tigers at all, right? Those are challenges that stimulate you. In fact, I've got a podcast coming out on, tigers, trigger points, and travel buses, but it's an interesting analogy, which we can talk about some other time. But, a lot of things that create stress are these unseen tigers that don't exist, and they create a lot of stress within you. Mark Twain once said, I've suffered, 1,000 misfortunes, most of which never happen, right? So have the courage to go forward and leave it all on the field.
Thank you. I think in interest of time, I'm going to take questions. We have time for 3 questions, so I'm just making it sure nobody feels bad if I stop them. So the first hand which was raised is Mr. Molish Patel. If you would like to come, I'll give you the mic and you can ask the question.
Well, thank you for the invigorating conversation. For both of you, I want to ask a question. Can you give me 3 people, one in personal life, one in corporate life, and one in spiritual life? Who are the 3 people that influenced you most, or you admire them the most, and why?
If I can answer that, I think there's not just 3 people, there are probably many, but I'll answer your question, which is specific that you mentioned, is 3 people who you admire. Of course, the most I admire is my parents. The most I follow and love are my friends, and your family. So these three groups, which I say your parents and your family and your friends, are the ones that help you. And for me, they are my spiritual heads. They are my, if I have a problem, I go to my friend Tesham and talk to him and say, hey, I have this problem, and he'll give me good advice, I know that. So those are my go-to people.
That's a great question there. Molish will somehow drag something out of you, by asking very specific questions, right? So I can't be evasive on this. But that's actually fairly simple for me. In my professional life, I had the opportunity of training with probably who I consider the greatest surgeon ever, Dr. James Andrews, a world-renowned sports medicine physician. And it's interesting, I don't even do the operations the same way he did it. But, there's our beautiful ancient scriptures, the Upanishads say, it literally means to be near. And I think there's an osmosis that you have with certain individuals that, open yourself up to and just let that soak in. My personal life, there's no question about that. That's my father. He grew up in British India, and powerful. And then spiritual, it would be the, it's actually interesting. It's the Bhagavad Gita. So I get, and I tell you, if every time I read it, it's different, but I get literally, it's moving when you really try to understand it at a very deep level. But I would say to you that, find individuals that evoke that type of response, There's a lot of technical, analytical stuff you'll have, but there are certain individuals that'll move you at a cellular level, and that's a great question, man. Loaded.
Thank you. Dr. Gupta has one question, so you have your mic, so you can go ahead. And then you'll be the last one. Thank you.
Sunny and Dr. Pandya, is actually for both of you. I run a surgery center. I've started a endoscopy center in Louisville. So I also wear a lot of hats: physician, CEO, president, sometimes janitor, everything you can imagine, So I think the biggest problem I face is with people not listening to me. It's always staff, patients, and all these things, But as a CEO, how do you resolve the conflicts without being confrontational? And, that's a common problem we all face, and how, diplomatically handle these things,
It's a great question. I think one thing I would simply say is you lead by example. Everybody talks about this, that, and the other. And honestly, it's vapor. You're just running your mouth. You do it, right? You get into the trenches and you dig, right? And for me, it's actually really simple. I just do what I need to do. Again, I go back to the Gita, right? Karmanyevadhikarashte ma phaleshu kadachana. Do it. It's easy to say that, but you have to live it. You do what you need to do, period. That's it. And I'm the last guy every single day to turn the lights out in my office and my center and leave. And guess what? That inspires everyone else. Get right and wrong off the table. Lead by example. And you know what? I will tell you this, that my staff that's been with me for decades, and I take them with me to other things. I just had one of my young guys, I hired him out of Georgia Tech. I gave a TED Talk there, and I had a bunch of great candidates. This guy kept over and over reaching out to me, and he's right now just came back from Utah, spending a week there, and posted on LinkedIn just a beautiful paper he gave. But my kind of staff, they'll take a bullet for me and I take it for them. So I think once you do that, you will not see that happen anymore. And what you'll do is you'll find the people that really honestly probably shouldn't have been on the ship, shouldn't have been on the reservation in the first place. They fall off. What you want is, I will take that small group of individuals, as Margaret Mead once said. It takes a small group of individuals to change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. So I wouldn't worry about those things. go forward, lead by example, don't get caught up in the details of conflict, and get rid of right and wrong, learn from it, and then move forward.
I think when you say your staff is not listening, I think you have the right to go ask them why they don't listen to you, okay, and confront them and ask them directly what makes them tick. And what I do with my team is I motivate them, I care about them, I don't go directly to them as, why didn't you do this? I first talk to them as, how is your day going? What's going on? And that brings their defenses down. Instead of going directly to them as like, why didn't you do this? So I first talk to them, and when they can start relating to me and listening to me because I'm having a conversation, that's when I think you can resolve a lot of those issues.
A young physician, Madhu. Madhu, you have your question?
Sure. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm Madhu Ramaswamy. I'm a pulmonary critical care physician from Washington, D.C. Fantastic discussion. Question perhaps more for Dr. Pandya, but Sandeep, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Being in practice as an intensivist, I've run a small private equity company, but yet whenever something business comes in, even if it's within the realm of healthcare, innovation, leading something which involves finances or numbers, imposter syndrome creeps in. Now, I can hear the conviction in your voice, Dr. Pandya, but that's obviously built on decades of what you've done. But if you went back, I don't know if you ever had one, perhaps you never did, but what would your advice be for younger physicians, or anyone actually at any stage in their career, who are slightly getting off what they've been trained to do exclusively? Yep. Thank you so much, guys, again.
That's a great question. And it seems like I answer these questions philosophically, but I think that's the only way. Because I really think that once you've got, yourself aligned with yourself, then I think a lot of this becomes self-evident. But read a great work written several hundred years ago. It's called On the Revolution of Heavenly Bodies. Nicholas Copernicus, right? And you're talking about the earth revolving around the sun. Imagine the heresy of those days of being Galileo. Don't be anything short of that. Why should you be? You're not some pawn in the game. You become Columbus, Go out there and go hard and save it. Evangelize the problem. It's the first thing you need to do. If you want to build something or you want to do something, too often people talk about, oh, here's the solution, here we do. Stop that. Evangelize the problem. Once you evangelize the problem and you have the solution, it becomes self-evident to do that. A lot of times, understanding the problem, you're developing the solution. And once you do that, people get it. Too often they're trying to tell people what to do. Forget that. Here's the problem. What are you going to do about it? Evangelize that, work backwards, and all of a sudden, I think things fall into place much more. And go back and read works like that, and you'll see exactly how they did it and how they survived, right? And it's magical, because those are the people we talk about. I don't know who the businessman was that was selling, silk goods in Germany or in Prussia or in, Genoa at the time, but I remember Columbus, right? And I remember Copernicus, and I remember Galileo. And so learn from those, and like I said, that's a great work to see exactly how he did it and what the skill sets were there.
I was reading something today, and it said, learn about two words that says, nobody cares. So why are those two words profound? Because if you want to do something that is different from what you're doing, nobody cares. Okay, so just go do it.
All right, that was a nice, short and sweet answers. Thank you, really, people who came and listened, and I really appreciate. I'm going to invite two CEOs, Mr. Monesh Patel. I would like to come up and give a plaque and, the shawl and flowers, please. Mr. Monesh Patel, I want you up, and I'm going to call another CEO, which happens to be my brother, Mr. Tesham Gaur. Can you please come? They both have been amazing, and these two CEOs are here because of these two gentlemen. So I want both of you. I don't want to take credit just by myself. So both of you, please come up, and I would like my panelists to come in front so we can take and really appreciate your time and take time to appreciate your wisdom and the knowledge that you have shared. So Sunny, please come, Dr. Pandya, please come in the middle. Desham goes to honor Sandeep.